Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew.
And I'm Andrew Bellers.
We have another show planned today where we will very likely receive a strike from YouTube, but we're okay because you get 3 strikes and we only have 1 strike right now. So we're going to use that spare one we have before we get totally kicked off. Now, there are times whenever you say certain things and they actually bypass all 3 strikes. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But once again, if it does happen, you've got to remember that we post every single one of our shows on Rumble as well. And we post it on the Zach Drew Show on Facebook. And obviously, if you're watching on Comcast Cable Frontier or on DirecTV through WHT, not to worry, because you will continue to watch us on all of those platforms.
Yeah.
We did get censored on TikTok. We garnered over 600,000 views in 2 months, 300,000 people per month. And the last 10 videos we've posted, the average view is probably 70 views. And to where it even came to a point where I couldn't even find the videos that I was even searching for. And then sure enough, a couple hours later, this and that, and those videos are just gone. And so once again, it's just unfortunate. We really need a conservative network to rise up. And there are conservative platforms that we could put our shows on. But they don't either, one, have the people there yet, even though we post there, or they don't have the algorithms that are advanced enough to know what people like to watch, where they get our video suggested to them like the other large advanced platforms have. Because what we've noticed is this: whenever our content isn't censored, hundreds of thousands of people want to watch it weekly.
Yeah.
And that is why we are simply just almost a hidden show still with a few thousand people that watch each week. We need something to take place. And I think that it's just the Lord's timing. This show is going to radically take off. You know, in the course of a year, if we could have a platform like TikTok that didn't censor us,
Yeah.
the things that this show could do within a year, we'd have new sets, new shows, more staff. I mean, everything would be different. And we're like this hidden gem right now. I feel that the Lord is like, you know, it's in His timing. Because like I said, I'll say it one more time. When we're not censored, hundreds of thousands of people watch our content on a weekly basis. Then we get censored, and then they can't find the show, they can't click on it, and we get 70 views. It's unbelievable. So we have another show that is going to trigger the liberals. But before I get into that, I want to encourage everybody that's watching to give something this week. Even if it's just $25, or maybe you want to give an extra $50 or $100, please get involved. We need your help. We need to grow what we have even in our account, especially for the seasons we are about ready to enter into. We need it. We desperately need your help. So go to the ZachDrewShow.com and just click that bright orange donate button. And I would encourage you, if you feel led, to become one of our monthly partners. The monthly partners, the recurring partners that give every month online through either Tithe or PayPal, right there on that orange donate button, or through the mail, they're the ones that are truly the backbone of this ministry. The backbone. That is how we can continue. I can't, if I want to bring on, someone and pay them $30,000 a year, I can't do that if someone gives a one-time check of $30,000, even though it's amazing, it's awesome, but we can't hire someone, because what are we going to do after 12 months? No, we need 25 people, donating X amount of dollars every month, and then I know that I can hire people. That's how it's the monthly recurrings that we can count on. So please become that. Also, if you do want to become a member of the Paul Revere Club, go on the website, ZachDrewShow.com, click the store button for that, and it's $30 a month, and you'll receive, at the first of every month, exclusive content from this program, including articles and videos we didn't have time to read or watch with you on the program, and detailed show recaps. There's been lots of people that over the years have asked if I would give them my show notes so they could have them in that type of way. Well, yes, you can become a partner of the Paul Revere Club, and you'll receive the Paul Revere Report on a monthly basis. Also, one last thing, we do have the most delicious coffee in all of the world. You can receive that for a donation of $25 to the ministry, and you can even make that, once again, in our store on a recurring basis, so we can send you bags every month. there are a lot of people dying suddenly. No, you already know where I'm going with this show. You know, hundreds of people. You know, there's lots of different reports on, you know, conservative reports, and it's a lot, very likely a lot more than this, that they've actually been able to say is that over 800 more people are dying on a weekly basis than years past in America. And why is that? What's going on? I think there's only one singular difference that separates these last couple of years from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You got to look for the common denominators. What has the vast majority of the world taken place in that could possibly, did the atmosphere change? Did the pollutants change? What has happened? Did most people get something in their arm? Yeah, could that possibly be what's triggering all of these fatalities? Well, I can tell you that newspapers, TV news channels, and news websites are ramping up their narrative to hide the real cause of excess deaths. Here we go. Here are some of the most outrageous excuses for the increase of deaths in 2022. Leading off, right off the bat, it has nothing to do with the jab, you uneducated people. No, it's referee whistles. Referee whistles may be cause of sudden increase in heart problems, say the experts. The article talks about how this is easily solved. Ban whistles. Except that won't work, because even the dullest among us will come to think to themselves two things. Firstly, where are all the dead sports players, the dead footballers from all the whistle blowing which we've had for, well, forever? Heaven forbid they ask themselves the obvious question: what's changed? Why are the referee whistles causing people by the hundreds to drop dead now? If this wasn't so sad, you'd laugh. And it is. I still laughed, actually, even though it's sad. It's just the most ridiculous, totally ridiculous thing that you can possibly refer. Hey, and coming in number two, it's the tiny particles. There's an increase of just a whole bunch of tiny particles all throughout the world right now in the air that are triggering sudden heart attacks. Studies suggest. Experts warn cold showers now causes heart attacks in young adults. Cold showers. You know, 2 years ago, you ever type in Google search into cold showers, all it's going to have is a ridiculous amount of health benefits.
Yeah, it's good for you.
It's good for you.
Not anymore.
The athletes soak in ice baths, you know. I went to the restaurant yesterday, and they put a cup of iced water on my table. Not today.
No heart attacks today.
No heart attacks today. Get that away from me.
Not today, Satan.
Yeah, not today, Satan. That's right. Video games may trigger dangerous heart arrhythmias in children. Yes, there's been a study where 22 kids have fainted and went into cardiac arrest, and a few of those kids actually even died, and it's because of video games. Wow. Even though video games have been around since, well, I know that the Nintendo NES came out in 1984. Then you had, you know, Pong. People were dropping dead because of Pong. Remember that? Yeah, it's heart arrhythmias. Energy bill price rise may cause heart attacks and strokes. Now, you know, granted, I did about have a heart attack when I saw my energy bill this week, right? But no, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and here's another thing, is that blood clots, compound found in eggs, linked to an enhanced risk of blood clotting. Oh my gosh. And this is actually a study that was done by the Cleveland Clinic. Honestly, I told Andrew before the show, I said it's on, and seriously, there actually could be some truth to this if you read some books, one book called Disinformation, of what they actually have done in America. It's written by the largest defector in America's history, defected from Russia, wrote a book called Disinformation. It's a fantastic read of the things of how they campaign to literally deceive the masses. And I honestly think it's like the Cleveland Clinic, you know, whoever funded this study, they simply do like a Google search or whatever, and they type in what is trending the most this week, right? And it's like, wow, eggs, $10, $12, $15, $20 a dozen. Everybody has eggs on the brain. So it's like, that's what's causing the blood clots. New study suggests Cleveland Clinic. It's like that subliminal messaging, you know, like that old thing that you've heard before, like back in the day, you know, you'd be watching a movie or something in the theater, and for just a split second of frame, they would throw on there like Coca-Cola or a popcorn or something, and that, you know, and whether it's true or not, but the old story would say that the theaters would see a radical increase in sales in Coca-Cola and popcorn because of that subliminal messaging, right? Yeah. So it's like, so anytime anybody thinks about eggs, it's like their brain is also thinking, oh, so many more people are dying because of these blood clots, and it's because it's also there. Yeah. You know, it's like, well, referee whistles, that article came out during the World Cup. You know, so everybody in the world, you know, primarily not in America, I suppose, but everybody else in the rest of the world is watching the World Cup. Right? And this study is saying referee whistles are the cause of a sudden increase of heart attacks. So it's like, while everybody is watching the World Cup, and every time the ref will blow a whistle, it's like a subliminal little flip of a frame where they remember seeing, oh, that could be the cause. Has nothing to do with what the entire world stuck in their arm. It's like subliminal messaging. It's like a disinformation campaign. And people are so dumb that and so asleep that they can't even begin to think that that's a possibility, because something called normalcy bias, look it up. I'm not going to explain it in depth here. Normalcy bias, that we come in our psyche almost, we're like, it's like how we were born in the country we lived in, the experiences we've had that are kind of, you know, American experiences or European experiences or this and that. And whatever can happen in that world is the only things that you can accept, like in that box of your previous experiences. And anything that is abnormal, that's different, that's something that's ever happened, it cannot happen, it will not happen, and you will deceive yourself to thinking anybody that says otherwise is a filthy liar, because it's something that we have in our minds called a normalcy bias. So to think like, well, no, Zach, this could possibly be a disinformation campaign, you're not awake, you're asleep. COVID pandemic blamed for increase in heart deaths. Thousands of middle-aged people are dying of heart conditions because they did not get statins or blood pressure medicines during the pandemic. That's the reason, people. You know, we talked about on the show before, a previous article from last year, Indiana Life Insurance CEO says that deaths are up 40% among people ages 18 to 64. The head of the Indianapolis-based insurance company, One America, said the death rate is up a stunning 40% from pre-pandemic levels among working-aged people. Just to give you an idea of how bad that is, a 3 sigma or a 1 in 200 year catastrophe would be a 10% increase over pre-pandemic. 10%. 200 year catastrophe. So 40%, he said, is just unheard of. Most of the claims for deaths being filed are not classified as COVID-19 deaths, David said. Yeah, because they're not classified as COVID-19 deaths whenever it doesn't serve their narratives. Right. That, well, they're not COVID-19 because now that the is out, we've got to change the narrative. Because before, whenever they were trying to push everything was a death from it. You know, such and such jumped out of an airplane parachuting. His parachute didn't deploy. He smashed the ground from 5,000 feet in the air. And he instantly died from COVID-19.
And it sounds funny when you put it like that, but I remember there were actual stories, people who died of gunshot wounds, gunshot deaths, people who died from motorcycle accidents were actually being labeled as COVID deaths.
Temporary morgues are being built across UK due to unprecedented increase in excess deaths. Top British cardiologist Dr. Asim Malhotra, a highly esteemed award-winning NHS consultant cardiologist, stated that the deaths were likely linked to the experimental mRNA COVID vaccines. Whoa, thank you. He probably just died last week of COVID-19. From a hitman. Yeah. Hitman shot him in the head with a bullet.
Jeffrey Epstein style.
Yeah. blood clots. Embalmers have been finding numerous, and you've seen it, and I know you've seen it, so I'm not trying to tell you something you don't already know, because I know you know this, but I'm leading up to something. You've seen the pictures, these alien-like blood clots that, you know, you saw it in your room, you'd rebuke it in the name of Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and embalmers have been finding these numerous long fibrous clots that lack post-mortem characteristics. Numerous embalmers from different states confirmed to the Epoch Times that they have been seeing these strange clots starting from either 2020 or 2021. A man, his name is Mike Adams, not the Mike Adams that runs Natural News, because my audience will know who that is too, different Mike Adams, who runs an ISO 17025 accredited lab in Texas, analyzed clots in August. These are some quotes from him. We have tested one of the clots from embalmer Richard Hirschman, also tested side-by-side live human blood from the unvaccinated person, Adams told the Epoch Times. He found that the clots are lacking key elements present in healthy human blood, such as iron, potassium, and magnesium, suggesting that they are formed from something other than blood. Richard Hirschman, a licensed funeral director and embalmer in Alabama, recalled that he has been in the trade since the tragedy of 9/11, so over 20 years.
Yeah.
And he says this: prior to 2020 and 2021, we probably would see somewhere between 5 to 10% of the bodies that we would embalm having blood clots. So this is just staggering. He says now 50 to 70% of all the bodies he sees have blood clots. And that is why the anti-vaxxers, and I've said this many times on my show, I am not anti-vax. To those that push every vaccine under the sun, they would deem me as a radical anti-vaxxer. But to then those that are like the purebred anti-vax, nothing goes in my body, they would say, no, you're not an anti-vax. I believe there are certain ones, you know, that every child needs, but few and limited, and they should be spaced apart as far as possible. And the ones that you have the option to opt out at, I, you know, exercise my right. But there is a demand for unvaccinated blood. Did you know that? Skeptical of coronavirus shots, some patients demand blood transfusions only from the unvaccinated. And there's a story that you may have seen that took place not even 2 months ago. The verdict was just over a month ago. There was a New Zealand family. There was a family who demanded that their baby, who was going to have surgery for his heart, not receive vax blood for the baby's heart operation. And the health authorities stepped in, basically their equivalent of like DCFS or whatever and Child Protective Services, but the health authorities jumped in and they took that baby from their parents, and they've been deemed medically unfit. They have lost medical guardianship over this child. And there's a video. Go ahead and play that video of when they took that child from their parents.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, don't do that, boys. Hey, don't do it.
Please don't do it.
Hey, you guys are criminals. You are criminals. You are conducting a criminal act here. You are going to be recorded in the annals of time as criminals who come in here and take babies from their mothers. You have just kidnapped a baby from its mother without the consent of their parents.
You can't just tell me what you got to me like that.
Everyone, you know, I don't know where this goes to around the world. Our baby has just been medically kidnapped. Thugs have come in wearing police uniforms and they've ripped the baby out of his bed and violently taken him out of the room. They've threatened to arrest us all if we even pursue our baby. let this be a lesson to the entire rest of humanity. The takeover has actually started, and it started in a hospital ward with a baby. I call on humanity to arise.
Those parents, and even in the verdict by the judge wrote multiple times within, I wish I had my friend Mark on the phone for what it's called whenever he gives his like final ruling, many times within those paragraphs that these are loving and caring parents, because he was able to hear all the testimony from beginning to end, but he still deemed it that that these parents would lose medical custody, medical guardianship over their child. Now here's the thing, how this has been portrayed in the news is that these parents are insane and they were willing to risk the death of their child because they did have serious concerns of myocarditis that's been appearing in children. Myocarditis, a hardening of the areas around the heart. Serious concerns. So they said, so it was portrayed like these wicked parents, they shouldn't even have this child. They should have everything ripped away from them. Shouldn't even be in their custody at all at any time ever, because they're willing to essentially sacrifice their child because they're refusing to have this operation because you don't like the blood. I had to go through, because I told Andrew, I said, listen, I don't know these parents, but I feel like I do. And I said, there's more to this story. And I had to go through 7 articles before I finally found what I was looking for. Because nowhere, so first of all, let me just tell you like a little bit about the story, then I'm going to go on with what I was saying. So the New Zealand parents who refused to allow blood transfusions for their sick 4-month-old child unless they came from donors unvaccinated against COVID-19 have been temporarily stripped of medical custody of the baby. New Zealand's High Court on Wednesday ordered that the infant, identified in documents only as Baby W, be placed into the guardianship of health authorities until after he undergoes an urgently needed open heart surgery and recovers. The boy's parents remain his primary guardians and are still in charge of decisions about their boy that don't relate to the medical procedure. So it makes it sound like, listen, they still have the child, but you saw the video. It makes it sound like everything's okay. Sure, you know, they ruled that the baby is going to have the blood transfusion, even though the parents didn't want it. But listen, no, it was ripped away from the parents' hand. If they followed that child, they would be put under arrest.
Yeah.
So it was not like, listen, he still, no. It was a violent, horrific scenario. So the High Court judge, Ian Galt, said he accepted the affidavits of health experts who said there have been millions of blood transfusions performed around the world since COVID vaccines were introduced. And listen to this next part. He said, the vaccines hadn't caused any known harmful effects. Oh my gosh. I don't even dwell on that. It's just so ridiculous. Baby W's parents, so here's what I wanted to say. If I was these parents, I would not want to wait a second to have this operation. And if these parents were loving parents, and they would want the same. So what's the other side of the story? They said, essentially, no, we are not saying we want to hold off on this at all. We want to have this surgery immediately, as fast as we possibly can. And we have, at that time, and it ended up being likely way more people that they knew, 20 different individuals that were a match for that child's blood, that were willing at that time in those moments to give all the blood that that child needed. Yeah. Right there waiting. And they said, no, our rules. What do you mean? My baby needs this procedure. Here's the people. They're basically surrounding the building ready to give the blood. Just take their blood so my baby can be healed. Wicked parents deny surgery for infant because of vaxxed blood. You know, it's all a stupid narrative that they're pushing. These were good, loving parents saying, do what needs to be done. Here's 20 plus people right here, right now, just take their blood. Oh no, why not? because health officials argued that such directed donations from these 20 plus people should only occur, so it can occur, they have discretion, should only occur in exceptional circumstances, such as for recipients with very rare blood types. Would you say that this national, worldwide even story, this happened in New Zealand, I'm hearing about it here in Central Illinois, would qualify as a exceptional circumstance? Yeah, I think so. They had the discretion. They could have used it. The people were there wanting to give blood, but no, because they hate these people. The medical world hates these people because it interferes with their life. It interferes with their money. And they cannot accept the narrative, the truthful narrative. They can't. They can't. Because their world would come crumbling down. And they're willing to lie, cheat, steal, make out these parents to be evil, wicked villains because they just can't escape or accept, rather, that their whole world and its foundation is based upon a lie. That's where we are. In other news, Senator Ron Johnson on Thursday called for Congress to investigate vaccine manufacturers and the COVID vax approval process in response to a shocking, explosive, it's awesome, hidden interview by Project Veritas. In the video this week, the video exposed Pfizer's alleged plans to mutate the COVID virus. Some quotes from Senator Ron Johnson. Federal health agencies have been captured by Big Pharma and grossly derelict in their duties throughout the pandemic. It's time for Congress to thoroughly investigate vaccine manufacturers and the entire COVID vaccine process. Andrew, we have 2 minutes, okay? So I'm going to need you to tackle this quickly. I'm just going to set it up for you, okay? What this video was is this. It was a high-level Pfizer employee. He was caught undercover camera by Project Veritas when he inadvertently dropped several bomb shares. This is within the article that we're going to be reading. So Jordan Tristan Walker, which is Pfizer's director of R&D, research and development, the director and strategic operations, okay, said that the company is exploring a way to mutate COVID via directed evolution in order to anticipate new strains for their COVID-19 vaccine. And that is why Senator Ron Johnson is calling for Congress to investigate the vaccine manufacturers. It's unbelievable. You have a minute and a half and then close out the show.
Sure, let's start with a quote from the director of R&D. Quote, "One of the things we, Pfizer, are exploring is like, why don't we just mutate COVID ourselves? We could preemptively develop new vaccines, right? So we have to do that. If we're going to do that, there's a risk." He said, "Don't tell anyone. Promise you won't tell anyone. The way the experiment would work is that we put the virus in monkeys and we successfully cause them to keep infecting each other." This is the gain of function research that's illegal that we've been talking about. Quote, "You have to be very controlled to make sure that this virus that you mutate doesn't create something that just goes everywhere, which I suspect is the way that the virus started in Wuhan, to be honest. It makes no sense that this virus popped up out of nowhere." And then he goes on to say this, "It's going to be a cash cow. COVID is going to be a cash cow for us for a while going forward." And then this is what Ron Johnson was talking about. He goes on to explain the relationship between the FDA and Pfizer and companies like it. He also explained that big pharma and government agencies such as the FDA are not working in the best interest of Americans. In the pharma industry, all the people who review our drugs, eventually, most of them will come to work for pharma companies. When the regulators reviewing our drugs know that once they stop regulating, they're going to come work for the company, they are not going to be as hard towards the company that's going to give them a job. So this is a guy on the inside exposing, he didn't know that he was exposing it, but exposing the dark underbelly of this industry.
That's right. So pray for Senator Ron Johnson that he is successful in his efforts. We're totally out of time for today's show, and I do want to encourage you, make sure You get into your word every day. These are very trying times. And you need to be in your word every day so you can hear the Holy Spirit when the Lord is speaking to you. I love you. We'll see you next week.